The aroma of sizzling bacon and fresh coffee filled the bustling diner. Amidst the chaos, a crisp $100 bill floated to the floor. Sarah, a waitress with tired eyes and worn shoes, bent to retrieve it, her heart racing. She looked up, expecting irritation, but instead met the gentle gaze of a tall, slender young man in an oversized hoodie and sunglasses. As their hands touched, a spark of connection ignited. In that fleeting moment, neither Sarah nor the mysterious stranger could have foreseen how this chance encounter would ripple outward, touching lives far beyond the diner's worn linoleum floors and setting in motion events that would captivate a nation. A golden elevator ascended silently, carrying its lone passenger to the top of Trump Tower. Inside, Barron Trump stood quietly, his tall frame dwarfing the opulent space. As the doors opened, he stepped into a world few could imagine, a gilded sanctuary high above the bustling streets of New York City. Barron's life was a stark contrast to the public personas of his family members. While his father's face dominated news cycles and his siblings navigated the choppy waters of politics and business, Barron remained an enigma. His daily routine unfolded in a cocoon of luxury and security, far removed from the experiences of his peers. Each morning, Barron woke to a meticulously prepared breakfast before attending an exclusive private school. Even there, he was insulated from the normal social interactions that shape most teenagers' lives. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a child psychologist specializing in high-profile families, explained, "Growing up in an environment of extreme privilege and constant security can create a sense of disconnection from the wider world." Despite the challenges of his unique situation, glimpses of Barron's personality occasionally shone through. His passion for soccer was well known, and he was often spotted wearing jerseys of his favorite teams. His interest in technology and coding allowed him to connect with the outside world, albeit virtually. As Barron grew older, a subtle shift began to occur. The world beyond his gilded cage beckoned, sparking a curiosity that couldn't be satisfied by even the most luxurious surroundings. He found himself lingering by windows, watching the ebb and flow of city life far below. Questions formed in his mind about the lives and struggles of those who inhabited a world so different from his own. One evening, as Barron sat in the tower's expansive library, he overheard a conversation between two staff members. They spoke in hushed tones about a friend facing eviction, struggling to make ends meet on a waitress's salary. The stark reality of their words pierced through the bubble of Barron's sheltered existence, planting a seed of awareness that would soon blossom into action. As his curiosity grew, so did an internal conflict. Barron felt torn between the safety of his sheltered existence and a longing to experience life beyond the tower's walls. He began to question the stark divide between his world and the one he observed from afar. Who was Barron Trump, really? The public saw a tall, handsome young man, always impeccably dressed and unfailingly polite. They caught glimpses of him at official functions, standing silently beside his parents. But behind the carefully cultivated image lay a complex individual, shaped by extraordinary circumstances, yet yearning for connection and understanding of the world beyond his gilded sanctuary. Barron's curiosity drew him from his room as hushed voices drifted through the hallway past midnight. He caught fragments of a conversation about someone facing eviction, despite working 3 jobs. The stark reality of struggling service workers left him unsettled, his mind racing with questions about the lives of those he encountered daily in Trump Tower. Unable to shake these thoughts, Barron dove into research the next morning. The statistics he uncovered painted a grim picture. Nearly 40% of Americans would struggle with an unexpected $400 expense. In New York City, the average service worker earned just over $30,000 annually, barely scraping by as living costs soared. These cold, hard numbers began to reshape Barron's understanding of the world beyond his privileged bubble. As days passed, Barron's awareness sharpened. He noticed the weary eyes of the night shift security guard and the worn shoes of the elevator operator. He wondered about their stories, their struggles, their aspirations. The contrast between his weekly allowance and their monthly earnings weighed heavily on his conscience. One afternoon, gazing from his father's office window, Barron spotted protesters demanding better wages and decrying income inequality. The distance between his world and theirs felt both vast and paper-thin, An internal debate raged within him. Should he remain content in his fortunate circumstances, or did he have a responsibility to understand, empathize, and perhaps even act? Late one night, as Barron grappled with these thoughts, an idea took shape. What if he could experience this other world firsthand, not as Barron Trump, but as an ordinary person? The concept thrilled and terrified him in equal measure. He'd need to plan meticulously, find a way to blend in, and navigate life beyond Trump Tower's gilded walls without compromising his safety or identity. As dawn broke, Barron's excitement mingled with apprehension. He imagined the challenges he might face, the people he could meet, and the lessons he might learn. The potential for personal growth battled against his fear of the unknown. Yet the pull of curiosity and a growing sense of moral obligation proved stronger than his hesitation. Barron made his decision. He would venture out, witnessing firsthand the struggles he'd only read about. The thought of stepping out of his comfort zone was daunting, but he felt compelled to understand this other world. Little did he know that this choice would lead to a chance encounter, one that would not only transform his perspective, but also profoundly impact another person's life. The bell above the diner door chimed softly as Barron, disguised in a hoodie and jeans, stepped inside. The aroma of coffee and grease hit him like a wave, a stark contrast to the refined scents of Trump Tower. His eyes scanned the worn vinyl booths, the scratched Formica countertop, and the weary faces of patrons hunched over steaming mugs. This was a world he had only glimpsed through tinted car windows, and now he was immersed in it. Barron's heart raced as he slid into a corner booth, acutely aware of how out of place he felt. The menu, laminated and slightly sticky, listed items he had never considered eating. As he fumbled with the unfamiliar document, a voice broke through his anxiety. "First time here, honey?" The waitress's voice was warm but tired, a hint of a southern drawl coloring her words. Barron looked up, meeting the kind eyes of a woman who introduced herself as Sarah. Her uniform was crisp but faded, and laugh lines framed her eyes, speaking of a life lived with both joy and hardship. Yes," Barron stammered, his usual composure faltering. "What do you recommend?" Sarah's smile widened as she launched into a description of the diner's specialties. Barron found himself captivated by her passion and the way she interacted with other customers. She remembered their names, asked about their families, and offered words of encouragement to those who seemed down. At the counter, Sarah refilled an elderly man's coffee without being asked, murmuring something that made him chuckle softly. When a young mother struggled to quiet her fussy toddler, Sarah produced crayons and a paper placemat, buying the mother a moment of peace. Barron watched in awe as Sarah slipped an extra slice of pie to a gaunt-looking man who had been nursing the same cup of coffee for hours. As the hours passed, Barron found himself eavesdropping on snippets of conversation that painted a picture of lives so different from his own. A construction worker bemoaned rising rent prices, while a nurse shared stories of overcrowded emergency rooms. Each tale was a thread in a tapestry of struggle and resilience that Barron had never truly seen before. When the lunch rush died down, Barron gathered the courage to engage Sarah in conversation. She shared her own story, a single mother of two, working double shifts to make ends meet. Her eldest was starting college in the fall, the first in their family to do so. "It's not easy," she admitted, her voice low. "But every time I think about giving up, I remember the look in my daughter's eyes when she got that acceptance letter. That's what keeps me going." Barron felt a profound shift within himself as he listened to Sarah's story. The world he had known suddenly seemed small in comparison to the vastness of human experience he was witnessing. He realized that true strength wasn't measured in wealth or power, but in the ability to face each day with hope and kindness, no matter the circumstances. As Sarah refilled Barron's coffee, he noticed the slight tremor in her hand and the worry lines etched deep on her face. Her eyes, though tired, held a warmth that seemed to envelop everyone in the diner. Barron found himself captivated by the quiet strength she exuded, a stark contrast to the polished facades he was accustomed to in his world of high-rises and haute couture. Throughout the day, Barron's empathy grew alongside his curiosity about Sarah's life. He observed her interactions with other patrons, each exchange revealing a new facet of her character. To an elderly woman dining alone, Sarah offered a gentle touch on the shoulder and a few moments of genuine conversation. For a harried mother struggling with a fussy toddler, she produced crayons and a clean paper placemat, transforming tears into giggles. Barron's mind raced with questions. What circumstances had led Sarah to this diner? What dreams and aspirations lay beneath her unwavering smile? The more he watched, the more he felt a growing urge to reach out, to connect, to help in some way. Yet he hesitated, torn between his desire to maintain anonymity and an unfamiliar pull to make a difference. As Sarah navigated the busy lunchtime rush, Barron couldn't help but marvel at her resilience. A customer at the counter berated her for a minor mistake in his order, his face red with misplaced anger. Sarah absorbed the verbal assault with grace, apologizing sincerely and quickly correcting the error. Barron felt a surge of indignation on her behalf, but Sarah's composure never faltered. In that moment, Barron's perception shifted. He saw not just a waitress, but a woman of remarkable strength and dignity. The realization hit him like a tidal wave. Sarah's kindness and resilience in the face of adversity were a reflection of a deeper humanity he had rarely encountered in his sheltered existence. As he sipped his coffee, now gone cold, Barron found himself reflecting on his own life and privileges. The stark contrast between Sarah's daily struggles and his own cushioned reality became impossible to ignore. He thought about the conversations he had overheard, the protests he had witnessed from afar, and the growing awareness of inequality that had been slowly percolating in his mind. The weight of his family name, once a source of pride and security, now felt heavy on his shoulders. Barron realized that his position of privilege came with a responsibility he had never fully grasped before. The urge to take action, to make a tangible difference in Sarah's life, grew stronger with each passing minute. As the afternoon wore on, Barron observed a moment that touched him deeply. An elderly man, his clothes threadbare and his hands shaking, entered the diner. Before he could even speak, Sarah approached him with a steaming bowl of soup and a gentle smile. "On the house, Mr. Johnson," she said softly, her voice carrying a warmth that seemed to fill the entire room. The old man's eyes welled with tears as he accepted the meal, his gratitude palpable in the air. This simple act of kindness, offered without hesitation or expectation of recognition, crystallized something in Barron's mind. He saw in Sarah a reflection of the person he aspired to be, someone who could make a real difference in the lives of others, not through grand gestures or public acclaim, but through small, meaningful acts of compassion. Barron's shoulders sagged under the weight of privilege as he grappled with his decision. His fingers trembled, pen hovering over the check. The enormity of the moment struck him. This wasn't just about leaving a tip, but potentially altering the course of Sarah's life. He stood abruptly, nearly knocking over his coffee mug. The door beckoned, offering an easy escape. But as he took a step towards it, Sarah's tired smile caught his eye. She was comforting an elderly woman who had spilled her coffee, her gentle touch a stark contrast to her obvious exhaustion. Barron sank back into his seat, resolve solidifying. He recalled his father's words about anonymous philanthropy. Sometimes the greatest impact comes from the shadows. With a deep breath, he steadied his hand and began to write. The note flowed from his pen, a mix of gratitude and encouragement. He praised Sarah's kindness, acknowledging her challenges. Without revealing his identity, Barron expressed hope that this gift would ease her burden and allow her to pursue her dreams. As he wrote, a surge of emotion washed over him. It was as if a dam had broken, releasing years of pent-up empathy and desire to make a difference. Dr. Amelia Winters, a psychologist specializing in altruism, explains, "When we give without expectation of recognition, we tap into a pure form of altruism. This act not only benefits the recipient, but can lead to significant personal growth and emotional well-being for the giver." Barron's heart raced as he scribbled an amount on the check. More money than he'd ever handled independently, yet a fraction of his access. He folded the note carefully, tucking it beneath the check and weighing it down with his empty mug. Standing, Barron cast a final glance at Sarah. She was laughing with regulars, her eyes crinkling at the corners, momentarily free from worry. He allowed himself a small smile, hoping his gesture would keep that worry at bay for a long time. As he approached the door, Exhilaration and fear mingled in his chest. What if Sarah opened the note while he was still here? What if someone recognized him? The bell jingled as he stepped out, immediately engulfed by the anonymity of the bustling New York street. Barron paused, looking back through the window. Sarah was approaching his table, unaware that her life was about to change. He watched as she picked up the check, her brow furrowing in confusion as she noticed the folded paper beneath. His heart pounded as he turned away, disappearing into the crowd, leaving behind a ripple that would spread far beyond this small diner. The diner's bustling atmosphere faded as Sarah approached Barron's abandoned table. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the check, curious about the mysterious young man who had sat there. As she lifted the slip, a folded paper fluttered to the floor. With trepidation and intrigue, Sarah bent to retrieve it, her heart pounding. Unfolding the note with shaking hands, Sarah's eyes widened in disbelief. The world seemed to slow as she absorbed the magnitude of what she saw. The amount on the check was staggering, more money than she had ever held at once. Tears welled up as she ran her fingers over the crisp paper, confirming its reality. Sarah stood frozen, overwhelmed by the implications. Years of financial struggle lifted from her shoulders, replaced by possibility. She thought of her children, the constant struggle to make ends meet, and dreams reluctantly set aside. With this money, she could breathe easier and pursue long-forgotten aspirations. Her mind raced with plans. She could pay off overdue rent, repair her car, and set aside money for her children's education. The relief might even allow her to pursue her dream of a nursing degree. As shock subsided, Sarah searched the diner for the young man, but he was gone. She clutched the note to her chest, feeling her rapid heartbeat. "Sarah? Are you okay?" Her coworker Mabel's voice broke through. Sarah turned, eyes wide. "Mabel, you won't believe this," Sarah whispered, showing her the check. Mabel's expression shifted from confusion to amazement. "Oh my goodness," Mabel breathed. "Who left this?" As Sarah recounted the story, word spread through the diner. Customers offered theories, and even the crusty cook emerged, smiling at the news. In the following days, Sarah found herself at the center of attention and speculation. She scoured local news and social media for information about her benefactor. Even as she imagined the possibilities this gift opened up, she couldn't shake the desire to know the identity of the person who had changed her life so profoundly. As the sun rose over New York City, Sarah's story of unexpected kindness spread rapidly. The once quiet diner buzzed with excitement, drawing reporters and curious onlookers. Inside, customers vied for a glimpse of Sarah, now a reluctant local celebrity. Sarah, still processing her unexpected windfall, found herself at the center of a media whirlwind. Her story had touched a nerve in a city often criticized for its indifference. As she navigated the attention, Sarah's mind raced with possibilities for her future. The immediate pressure of overdue bills finally lifted. The diner itself underwent a transformation. Regular customers left larger tips and offered encouragement to the staff. The usually surly cook now greeted patrons with a genuine smile. Even the dingy walls seemed brighter, infused with renewed hope. As the search for the mysterious benefactor continued, something unexpected unfolded. People from all walks of life began performing their own acts of kindness. A local businessman anonymously paid off medical bills for a struggling family. College students organized a food drive for the nearby homeless shelter. It was as if the initial act had sparked a chain reaction of goodwill. The impact rippled outward, touching lives in profound ways. The local community center, long overlooked, suddenly found itself flooded with volunteers and donations. Schools reported a decrease in bullying incidents as students embraced a new ethos of kindness. Even the notoriously impatient New York drivers seemed more willing to let others merge in traffic. One evening, a familiar figure slipped into the diner unnoticed. Barron, disguised in a nondescript coat and hat, sat in a corner booth, watching the bustling scene with quiet satisfaction. He overheard snippets of conversation about community projects and personal transformations, his eyes misting slightly as he realized the full extent of what his simple act had set in motion. As the story gained national attention, Sarah found herself invited to morning talk shows. She spoke of her plans to pursue a nursing degree, her voice trembling with emotion as she described how one act of kindness had reignited her long-dormant dreams. The diner became a pilgrimage site, with people traveling from neighboring states to sit at the famous table. Many left notes of gratitude and hope, creating a colorful mosaic on the walls. Each note told a story of personal struggles and renewed faith in humanity. Sociologists and economists began studying the phenomenon, quantifying the ripple effects. They found that the initial donation had multiplied many times over in economic impact and social benefit to the community. It was a testament to the power of kindness to create tangible, measurable change in a city starved for good news. As the sun dipped below the New York skyline, Barron Trump's journey from sheltered teen to compassionate individual came full circle. The simple act of kindness he had shown Sarah, a struggling waitress, had sparked a movement of generosity across the city. Barron, deeply moved, viewed his privileged world through a new lens. At a charity gala, he suggested donating to local food banks instead of acquiring another luxury item. His newfound empathy inspired others in his social circle to consider the less fortunate. As ripples of kindness spread, Barron's story reminded everyone that each person can spark change. What act of kindness will you choose today to make a difference?